It wasn't a rumor whispered in tabloids. It wasn't a blind item buried on some anonymous forum. It was a sentence spoken quietly, repeatedly, and without hesitation behind closed doors. She slept with my husband. Those words have been circulating for years among people who know exactly what they mean and exactly who they're about. Not an enemy, not a rival, not a stranger, but a woman once called family. A woman trusted with children, wardrobes, secrets, and access. A woman who didn't just enter a home, she was welcomed into it. And now, that friendship is being recast as something far darker. Tonight isn't about palace-friendly phrasing or polished ambiguity. This is about timelines, proximity, silence, and what happens when ambition outpaces loyalty. Because when one of the most visible friendships in celebrity culture implodes this completely, it doesn't fall apart quietly. It detonates. To understand how this alleged betrayal took root, you have to rewind. Long before crowns, long before California exile narratives, long before silence became a survival tactic. Back when doors didn't open automatically. Before the transformation into global relevance, she was an actress in Toronto, driven, ambitious, and searching for leverage. Not lacking talent, but lacking reach. And that's where the friendship began, not by accident, but by alignment. On the other side was a woman already embedded in power, a stylist with deep roots in Canada's elite circles, married into a family name that didn't shout, but unlocked rooms quietly. Media access, political adjacency, social insulation, the kind of infrastructure most people never see, but insiders immediately recognize. This wasn't brunch friendship energy. This was scaffolding. Introductions, styling, image elevation, access to rooms that weren't available without a trusted escort. This wasn't a casual bond. It was strategic proximity wrapped in sisterhood language. Vacations together, constant calls, social media loyalty, public praise that felt excessive even at the time. And when the actress began dating a British prince, the stylist wasn't an afterthought. She was among the first calls made. Her children weren't just invited to the wedding, they were placed front row under global cameras. That wasn't coincidence, that was confirmation of status. But friendships built on access don't fracture like normal ones. They crack under imbalance, and people close to this dynamic noticed it early. One side was giving far more than she was receiving. Wardrobe access, emotional cover, reputation buffering, strategic protection during the awkward transition from actress to royal adjacent figure. What came back in return wasn't loyalty. It was visibility. Visibility doesn't save you when things go wrong. And that imbalance sat quietly until the first real test arrived. In 2020, everything collapsed. A single controversy ignited a media firestorm. Contracts vanished. Brands distanced themselves overnight. Networks severed ties. A career built carefully over years was dismantled in real time. And there was one person who could have shifted the temperature instantly. One post, one call, one public alignment. But none came. Not confusion, not hesitation, silence. And not just any silence, calculated silence. Sources say this was the moment the emotional math changed. Because when someone disappears exactly when you need them most, it isn't accidental. It's a decision. No explanation, no private reassurance, no public defense, just distance. And while one woman was publicly burning, the other was already protecting a new image, a new narrative, a new world where inconvenient associations were liabilities. That abandonment wasn't just professional, it was personal. Because while careers were unraveling, something else was quietly destabilizing behind closed doors. A marriage already under strain, tension building where trust used to live. And this is where the story shifts from abandonment to intrusion. According to multiple sources familiar with the situation, the distancing wasn't universal. While the friendship cooled, contact with the husband did not. Late night calls, shared appearances, extended proximity, situations that blurred lines no one thought needed to be drawn. Toronto noticed, whispers followed, unease settled in. And eventually, the confrontation happened, privately. What didn't happen matters more than what did. There was no clear denial, no firm boundary, no effort to shut the door completely. Instead, deflection, minimization, a smooth pivot forward toward new goals, new circles, new immunity. Meanwhile, the woman who had opened every door stood watching her marriage weaken, her career implode, and her former confidante remain uncomfortably close to the man she trusted most. This wasn't jealousy. This wasn't paranoia. It was intuition screaming. and being ignored, until hindsight began connecting dots, phone logs, timelines, late-night messages during high-profile events. Overlaps that only made sense after everything else collapsed. And when the marriage finally ended, the missing piece snapped into place with devastating clarity. This wasn't something shouted to reporters. It wasn't leaked. It wasn't monetized. It was said quietly, consistently, to people she trusted. She slept with my husband. Not once, not accidentally, not without pattern. According to sources, what looked like professionalism was something else entirely. Familiarity used as cover, proximity mistaken for permission. Private gatherings where boundaries dissolved slowly enough to go unnoticed until it was too late. Witnesses recall moments that didn't sit right. Lingering closeness. Private exchanges that made rooms feel smaller. Behavior that only reveals its meaning after damage is done. And here's what changed everything. Evidence. Not vibes. Not resentment. Receipts that turn suspicion into certainty. At that point, this stopped being deniable, because publicly, the image has always been empowerment. Sisterhood, advocacy, moral clarity, uplifting women. Privately, according to people who've watched inner circles shrink, the pattern looks very different. Alliances formed quickly, value extracted efficiently, ties cut cleanly once usefulness expired. This wasn't the first fracture, just the most catastrophic one. And now, silence again. No denial, no clarification, no acknowledgement. Because engaging would mean answering timelines, and timelines demand precision. Meanwhile, the woman left behind isn't protecting anyone anymore. The marriage is over, the rebuilding has begun, and according to those closest to her, patience is gone. She isn't shouting, she's waiting. And that's what makes this dangerous. The allegations are already circulating quietly in elite circles, from people who know both sides personally. Others are watching. Because if one person speaks fully, they rarely speak alone. Walls don't crack from noise, they crack from pressure. And this story isn't finished. What makes the situation combustible isn't volume, it's restraint. Silence used deliberately has a way of amplifying what it refuses to address. And right now, that silence is doing far more damage than any denial ever could. Because in elite circles, the story is no longer speculative. It's discussed quietly, carefully, and with an understanding that everyone involved knows more than they're saying. Names are spoken in rooms without phones. Timelines are compared. People who once assumed this friendship simply drifted are revisiting old memories with fresh clarity. And that's how reputations begin to shift. What once looked like unfortunate coincidence now reads as pattern. Relationships that burned bright and vanished suddenly. Allies who became liabilities overnight. Women championed publicly, then erased privately the moment proximity became inconvenient. Jessica wasn't an anomaly, she was the most exposed example. And here's where things become dangerous for the image machine. Because Jessica has nothing left to protect. The marriage is over. The professional fallout already happened. The silence she kept bought her nothing. Sources close to her say she's no longer interested in shielding anyone else's narrative. She isn't chasing headlines. She isn't leaking recklessly. She's letting the truth exist exactly where it hurts most, among people who already understand the stakes. That's how pressure builds. Meanwhile, the absence of a response on the other side isn't calming the situation, it's sharpening it. No statement means no timeline rebuttal. No denial means no contradiction. And in social ecosystems where reputation functions like currency, unanswered allegations depreciate fast. This isn't a PR problem, it's a character problem. Because the accusation isn't abstract. It's not about tone, misunderstanding, or media spin. It's about conduct, about crossing a line that once crossed permanently redefines every public claim of loyalty, advocacy, and moral clarity. And those who've watched similar dynamics before know how this ends. First, the story circulates quietly. Then corroboration appears. Subtle, indirect, but unmistakable. Then someone else speaks. Not loudly, just clearly. Walls don't fall all at once. They fracture piece by piece. Right now, former friends are watching. Former allies are reassessing. People who once assumed silence meant resolution are realizing it meant something else entirely. Because silence doesn't erase timelines, it only delays accountability. And when accountability arrives late, it arrives heavier. This isn't about jealousy, it isn't about rivalry, it isn't even about scandal for scandal's sake. It's about what happens when ambition replaces ethics, when access becomes entitlement, and when loyalty is treated as disposable infrastructure instead of human trust. Jessica lost a marriage. She lost professional standing. She lost years defending someone who, according to her, never intended to return that protection. What she gained instead is clarity, and that's something image management can't negotiate with. And for the other side, the reckoning isn't immediate, but it's unavoidable. Because once a story like this exists inside credible circles, it doesn't disappear. It waits, it matures, it finds the right moment. And when it surfaces fully, it doesn't whisper. It names names, it anchors timelines, it demands answers. And the most dangerous thing of all? This time, the silence isn't protecting the narrative. It's confirming that the story is far from over.